Oof. Howdy, fellow citizens of the digital agora. Welcome to Uncle Diogenes' digital campfire. Slow down a little bit. Pull a seat up by my strange corner of the internet. Thank you for stopping by. This is an original piece, a spoken word essay I created. I call America Before America, 1750 to 1800. Part 1, 1750. Before there was an America, there was no America. There were 13 colonies, not one people, 13. Virginia didn't sound like Massachusetts. Pennsylvania didn't pray like South Carolina. A tobacco economy didn't think like a shipping economy. A Puritan meeting house didn't answer to a Catholic proprietor. Different accents, different churches, different economies, different loyalties. If you'd stood on a dock in Boston in 1750 and asked a man from Charleston who he had in common with you, or what he had in common with you, he might have said the king. That's it. That's the list. And yet, underneath all that difference, something was already beginning to move. Not a nation, not yet. Just a question forming in the dark. Part 2, the people already here. Before we talk about the founders, let's talk about who was actually standing on this ground. This is not a diversity checklist. This is not a modern invention. This is not something added later to make the story feel nicer. This is just what was true. Native nations who were here before any ship, whose names for these rivers we still use without knowing we're speaking a language older than the country itself. English settlers who came for land, for God, for a second chance. Germans, so many Germans, that entire counties in Pennsylvania spoke German before they ever spoke English. Dutch families still trading in New York long after New Amsterdam became New York in name only. Scots-Irish pouring down the Appalachian spine, building the frontier of our stubbornness in rifle and plow. French Huguenots fleeing one kind of persecution to help build a country that hadn't figured out what it thought about persecution at all. Jewish communities in Newport, in Charleston, in Savannah, already praying in synagogues. Already merchants, already neighbors, already American before American meant anything. Africans, enslaved and free. Millions of forced arrivals whose labor built the wealth of the very colonies, debating the meaning of liberty. And among those enslaved West Africans, Muslims, men and women who prayed toward Mecca in the swamps of Georgia, in the fields of the Carolinas, holding on to a faith that predates the country, that refused at first to hold on to them. This was the ground. This was the actual picture. Not a melting pot as metaphor, a melting pot as fact. Whether the people boiling in it had agreed to be there or not, Or 3, revolution. So the question was never simply, can we win a war? Armies can win wars. Farmers with muskets prove that. The real question, one that should keep you up at night if you think about it long enough, was this. Can 13 colonies who don't sound alike, don't pray alike, don't trade alike, don't even like each other very much, become one republic? It was never a military question. That was a question of faith. Part 4, building a government. So they tried. The Continental Congress, strangers, arguing in a room, inventing a country out of committee. The Articles of Confederation, the first attempt and the first failure. A government too weak to hold together. What war had barely joined. The Constitutional Convention, the second attempt, built on the wreckage of the first. Built by men who had just watched their first draft nearly fall apart. Washington, George Washington, not a king, though they offered him the shape of one, a man who understood that the most radical act he could perform was to walk away from power. They weren't executing a plan, they were inventing one failed draft at a time. Part 5, choosing a capital. So why not Philadelphia? It already had the buildings. Why not New York? It already had the money. Because a republic built on 13 jealous states could not be seen to belong to any one of them. Not the biggest city, not the richest port, a patch of swamp and farmland on the Potomac, chosen because it belonged meaningfully to no one. Neutral ground for a union that didn't yet trust itself. That decision alone tells you what kind of country they were terrified of becoming and what kind they were trying to desperately to be instead. Part 6, building the people's house. And then somebody had to actually build it, not legislate it, build it. The White House, the Capitol, the streets between them, stone quarried by hands that would never be thanked for it. Craftsmen who signed no declarations, but whose brickwork still holds up the walls where declarations are read today. Enslaved workers, laying the foundation of a government that would not recognize their freedom for generations after the mortar dried. Paid laborers, immigrants already living in this new land alongside them, different tongues, same scaffolding. This is the part of the story that doesn't get carved on the monuments. The Republic wasn't just written into being, it was built into being by hands with no vote into a shape that would one day have to answer for that. Part 7, foundations. A republic isn't built in one declaration. It is built in the boring years after. In laws revised, in traditions half invented, in expectations nobody had written down yet, because nobody knew if they'd survive to need them. Foundations in a building are the part no one sees again once the walls go up. Foundations in a republic are the same. Precedent, habit, compromise. You don't remember making until you realize you're living inside it for 200 years. Part 8, in closing. We inherit monuments. They inherited construction sites. They argued. They compromised. They failed. They tried again. And through all of it, through every argument, every accent, every church, every economy that didn't match, this was never a story about one people. It never was. It was a story about many peoples deciding, however reluctantly, however incompletely, to lay brick next to brick and call the result a home. Before America became a superpower, it was simply a young republic made of people who didn't sound alike, learning slowly, painfully, how to build a home. If you made it this far, thank you for listening all the way through. The great modern American cynic, Diogenes the dog. I carry my lamp in the honor of the old traditional cynic, Diogenes the cynic. My lamp is a cell phone. My agora is digital, social media. Thank you for slowing down a little bit and listen to one human talk and tell his story about history and the country that I love. I wish you as well as can be, fellow citizens of the digital agora. Diogenes out.